Good Monday morning. Remember that we are inside of this parentheses, if you will, between chapter 12 and chapter 15. And now we're going to start in chapter 12, verse 7, and it begins this way. Now war arose in heaven, Michael and his angels fighting against the dragon, which is Satan, and the dragon and his angels, the demonic forces, fought back. But he was defeated, and there was no longer any place for them in heaven. And the great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. About a year ago, I heard Max Lucado say, every battle at its root is a spiritual battle. And this moment in chapter 12 lets us know why. Because Satan and his demons were thrown down to the earth, and this is where they have been given temporary dominion, if you will. And Joseph A. Seiss, in his work, The Apocalypse, says this about angels. He said, God never made an evil being. A lot of people have that question. But he made angels, principalities and powers, capacitated for mighty joys and distinctions in his glorious domain, yet with free will, because angels, just like humans, have had free will. Implied in the very creation of moral beings, which they could exercise for their everlasting will or woe. Many have remained steadfast, to wit, Michael and his angels, but some abode not in the truth. Some chose deception, but revolted against the rule of heaven and became the unchanging enemies of God and his kingdom. So that's how the choice was made. So here we have Michael the archangel fighting against the demonic forces, and Satan has had multiple names throughout history and the Bible. He's known as the prince of the world, the prince of the powers of the air, the god of this world, the great dragon, the old serpent, the adversary. But remember, in the book of Job, Satan had access to the throne of God. Well, that all stops in this moment that we're about to read now. It says in verse 10, and I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, now the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ have come. For the accuser of our brothers has been thrown down, who accuses them day and night before our God. And they have conquered him. How is the enemy conquered? He's conquered by the blood of the Lamb of Jesus Christ and by the word of their testimony. Our lives that are testament to the saving grace of Jesus Christ are how the enemy is defeated. Why? Because we don't even love our lives into the death. Barnhouse, in his book of Revelation, writes this, quoting another commentator actually. He says, Satan has pitched his throne high, but God has placed his higher. Satan is might, but God is almighty. Satan can destroy, but God can destroy the destroyer. Satan is free, but God will shut him in at last so that he may never more harm or even touch his holy ones. And there is coming that moment where the accuser of the brethren is thrown down forever. Therefore, it continues, rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. But woe to you, O earth and sea, for the devil is come down to you in great wrath, because he knows that his time is short. So there's a time that Satan will be removed to no longer even be able to approach the throne of God. And when he does, he's coming to this earth with all the vengeance he possibly can muster, because he knows that his time is almost up. And what will happen in this time? The Antichrist will actually be controller of the earth. He'll be dictating its religions and its laws, controlling its trade, enforcing the worship of himself as God, cutting off the heads of those who dissent to him, filling the world with the worst of blasphemies, and compelling all that would live to receive the mark of allegiance to him. That is what the Antichrist is going to be focused on in this moment when Satan knows his time is running short. And when the dragon saw that he had been thrown down to the earth, he pursued the woman. Remember, the woman is Israel, who had given birth to the male child, which was Jesus. But the woman, Israel, was given 2 wings of the great angel so that she could fly from the serpent into the wilderness. Remember, we talked about this last week, that being Petra, where she'll go to be supernaturally protected for the last 3.5 years, to the place where she is to be nourished for a time and times and half a time. That's 3.5 years. The serpent, listen to how he's going to try to pursue her once she gets to Petra. The serpent poured water like a river out of his mouth after the woman to sweep her away with a flood. But the earth came to the help of the woman. This is again a reflection of how God will supernaturally protect Israel while she's in Petra. But the earth came to the help of the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed the river that the dragon had poured from his mouth. Then the dragon became furious with the woman who, for whatever reason, his pursuits, he cannot grasp her. And so he just finally goes off to make war on the rest of her offspring, on those who keep the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Jesus. And he stood on the sand of the sea. So when he tries this supernatural flood that the Lord intervenes in, and he realizes that he cannot get a hold of this protected remnant, then he removes his attention from her and goes back to pursuing those who have placed their trust in Christ during this time of the tribulation. It's interesting that the entire war of creation started when Satan rebelled against God and was thrown down to the earth. And he's been making war on us ever since. And if you think about your own life, what is one of the greatest ways he makes war against us? It's just as this passage said, as the accuser of the brethren. How many times in any given day do you get accusation coming to your thoughts about you? About you're not good enough, you don't do it right enough, how could he ever love you? Or accusation you get that comes to your mind about other people. All kinds of judgments that he'll bring to our mind about others. Or how about the accusation he'll give us against God? God's not for you. If God loved you, he wouldn't allow this to happen to you. If God loved you, he would protect you from this. If God loved you, if God was for you, all the different types of accusations that he brings. But do you know what? There will come a day when he will never be able to accuse us again. And how does that happen, that day that my heart is so longing for? It's by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. The testimony of how Jesus transformed us, restored us, and is coming back again to get us. And in that day, the accuser of the brethren will finally get what he deserves.